with something to say. A friendly old sage with a teddy bear face named Alexian. The magic's on its way. He's also to play, so let's not delay. Alexian is on my show. Operator, connect me to Alexian. Welcome to Music, Myth, and Magic. I'm Eric Arcadian, and today I'm speaking to Alexian. Alexian is the High Priest of Twisted Oak Coven, a pagan recording artist, musician, teacher, and host of the Alexian Show. Alexian, thank you so much for being on the show with me today.
Thank you for having me. This is wonderful. Of course, I had you on my show just a couple months ago.
Yes, and that was a lot of fun. I actually saw you had S.J. Tucker on the last episode. How's the show going?
The show is going great. I couldn't be happier. I'm getting a lot of subscribers, getting a lot of views. Things are going well, and Draken and I are having a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, well, I certainly had a lot of fun when I came on a couple episodes ago. But to talk about you and how you got your start, can you tell me a little bit about your background and maybe how you first got into music and first got into witchcraft?
Okay. Music. It's a colorful story, so here we go. I was 4 years old, and my aunt told my mother that she needed to take those little heathen kids to Sunday school, to church. And my mom, being the youngest of 12, she was like, okay. And so my older sister, who's 7 years older than me, and myself at 4, we went to church. And I was really quickly ushered away into a back room with other kids, which was called Sunday school. And at 4 years old, I thought I was at school, and I was excited because I was going to school, and I'm only 4 and I'm going to school, right? So this lady, very nice lady, hands me a sheet of paper. It's a coloring handout. And I look at it, and of course, this is the early 70s. And I noticed that there was a hippie on it. And the hippie, I was like, why are we coloring a hippie? Because, my dad would always see the hippies on television with the long hair, and he'd, those hippies, blah, 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 in the early 70s. And so I thought it was a hippie, and the lady also handed me a purple crayon. And I thought, this is very bizarre. I'm in school coloring a hippie, but I have to color him purple. Even at 4 years old, I knew this purple color is just not right. I remember raising my hand, worried, and I'm not really good at coloring. I'm afraid I'm going to get outside the lines. And the lady assured me that it was okay. So I colored the hippie purple. And at the end of the class, we learned that this hippie's name was Jesus, right? And I'm like, okay, I don't understand, but okay. And then out of Sunday school and into the main congregation, I went, and there was a very special guest there that day. It just happened to be a very special guest there that day. It was a man, and he had come to do this special thing, and everybody was excited that he was there. And he went up on the stage at the front of the auditorium, and he sat at this desk. 4 years old, it's a desk. And then he went like this, and he started playing, and all this music came out, and my brain went at 4 years old. And that was it. That was the beginning. That was the moment that I knew I needed to learn to play that desk, and I started begging for a piano. And I begged every birthday, every Christmas, piano. 4 years later, at the age of 8, my parents got tired of hearing me beg for a piano, and they're like, this kid's not going to give it up. Let's get him a piano. And so I got my piano, which I still have to this day. It's here in Florida with me now. And I started taking piano lessons at age 8. And I took classical piano lessons from 8 to 18 for 10 years. And then I was, of course, in band playing trumpet. I was in choir and drama and all that stuff in high school. But it all began with the man playing the desk.
As you were telling that story, I was really hoping that the hippie was Jesus. So I'm really glad that the hippie turned out to be Jesus in the end. I remember my days as a kid in Sunday school. So I definitely got a lot of, I think we talked about this before a little bit. We both had like a lot of musical influence through the church.
Sure.
Which definitely made for some interesting moments, especially as we may have changed our religious viewpoints. How did you have that transition from the Christian church to Wicca?
Well, I've led a very strange life, Eric. My mom was naturally psychic. She knew things before they would happen. She was, I call it a curse. She was cursed with knowing when people were going to die 2 weeks before they would die. And every time she'd have this same dream, it would happen and they would die. But the weird part was my mother would tell us. So, I mean, like, think of that as a child, you know, a little kid. Oh, so-and-so is going to die within the next 2 weeks. What, Mom? You know, but it's true that would happen. We had a ghost growing up. I'm convinced that on my farm in the backyard, there is a grave site from old settlers. I don't know if the ghost was the settlers or not, but I think they were. I would walk around in the house. And when I started playing music at 8, the ghost seemed to be attracted to the music. It liked the music and it would make itself known in the room. Like plants would start to shake and stuff. Big plants, not little plants, big plants. And at a very young age, I started talking to it and it would respond. It would chill out, so to speak, and leave me alone. You know, I had a UFO experience with my sister when I was like 7 on the farm in broad daylight. My sister and I remember it clear as a bell. A lot of crazy things have happened. And as I got older, I actually became the church organist at age 14. And for 4 years, 14 to 18, I was the church organist in the Baptist church. I wasn't there for the religion. I never really truly bought into it because I saw the hypocrisy and I saw the just in some instances hate that were coming out of people's hearts towards people that weren't like them, you know, and I just couldn't embrace that. But I was there for the music. And I would have spiritual experiences playing the organ and having all the people sing with the music and everything. And it came a point where I started to kind of get trancy and I would look out over the congregation and I would see stars. And some of those stars had circles around them. So, AKA pentacle. I don't know where that came from to this day, but I would see stars. All right. Fast forward, I'm in college. I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston, Massachusetts. And one year, my sister flew up and visited me. It was probably my second year, it would have been actually my third going on 4th year of college. I went for 6 years because I triple majored. But we went to our first metaphysical bookshop together. And she was really into it was the late 80s, you know, so the whole new agey thing was starting and people were into channeling. And my sister was really interested in that because she has gifts too. And she kind of went away to the channeling section And I remember this. I walked into this bookstore. For those that are from the area, you might remember Arsenic and Old Lace in Cambridge, Massachusetts. That was the store. I walked in and I turned to the left and looked, and up on the bookshelf, I still see it clear as a bell, is a big blue book, and it has this big pentacle on it. And so because of that star, I just did a beeline straight for that book and took it down off the shelf, and I was looking at it. And this, like 10, 15 seconds later, here comes this raven-haired, light complexioned lady. Her name was Deborah, used to work there. And she grabbed the book, snatched it right out of my hand, grabbed my hand and pulled me to the floor. And I thought, my God, I'm sitting on the floor in the middle of a bookstore. This is so odd. My mother would beat my ass if she knew I was on the floor. I mean, these are the thoughts that were going through my head, even as a college student, that I was going to get in trouble for sitting on the floor in the middle of a bookstore. But she started to talk to me about Wicca and what it was and what it represented. And I was highly intrigued because it was everything I believe. And so I bought the book and I took it home to my apartment that night, and I read the first chapter, and I kid you not, I started crying. It was like I had found that what I believed in had a name, you know. And this is sometimes a very common experience with people who first discover the craft. They have a feeling of coming home, right? And it's a true experience that a lot of people have. And I had that experience that night with Uncle Bucky's Big Blue Book, we affectionately call, which is the Complete Book of Witchcraft by Raymond Buckland. And that's the connection, the stars over the congregation. And when I walked into that store and saw the star, it called me. And that's where it all began.
That is really cool and very interesting that you saw the pentagrams over people like that, especially in the church. But I think a lot of people got their start with Uncle Bucky's Big Blue Book.
Oh, sure, especially back in that day.
Yeah, I think it's really cool also how the lady kind of intercepted you and shared some stuff about Wicca with you just from seeing you pick up the book. Now, what made you focus more on initiatory witchcraft?
Well, when I got into Wicca, this is circa 1988, I later that same week was at college, and I saw a guy walk by and he had on a pentacle necklace. So I kind of stalked him for like 10 minutes, and finally he got to a point where he was talking to some friends, and I walked up and I introduced myself and I said, when you get a second, I'd like to talk about your pendant. And he goes, oh, sure. And his name was Jay. And that was my first contact with, well, other than the store itself, with somebody that was in the craft. And it turned out that he was a member of a small study group that was getting together to study, and kind of a proto-coven, if you will. And I joined, and we started learning together and studying together and writing rituals together and doing our thing. It kind of outgrew itself, but it was around that time that his teacher called me up out of the blue. Jay had given him my number, I guess, and he was like, very mysterious. And when the student is ready, the teacher shall come. And I'm like, excuse me, who is this? I had no idea. And he introduced himself, and then I was like, oh, I get it. And my teacher, Lord Starspawn, is very eccentric, and I love him to death to this day. I often joke that he was like Rafiki from The Lion King. He was that kind of a teacher, and he did not have lesson plans. he would let me ask lots of questions, and then he would teach me in the moment, which was really, really cool. But that's kind of how I ended up apprenticed to him and studying under him and learning. And he happened to be a member. He was a member of the first Alexandrian tradition Coven in the U.S., Dubangia Grassal. So that's how I ended up in the Alexandrian tradition. Everything in my life just kind of seems to fall into place, like everything. I really am aware that I live a charmed life, and I love it. And I just keep thinking positivity and visualizing what I want to happen, and it just falls in front of me. And I think that is a lesson in magic itself. If you don't believe that these things can happen, they won't. But if you believe that these things will happen, they will. And I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here. I learned that lesson at a very young age. Yes, it took me 4 years to get my piano. But I remember when I was like 6, in between seeing the man play the desk and getting the piano, in the middle of that, I remember going out walking in the field. I was raised on a farm in southern Missouri, in the middle of nowhere. And I remember walking out into the field, and it's dusk. And I remember, the sun is setting and the stars are coming out. And I saw, starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might have my wish, I wish tonight. That whole thing. I did that. And I made a wish of what I wanted, which was a 3-wheel mini bike. I'm 6 years old. I want a 3-wheel mini bike. Never told a soul. Guess what was under the tree Christmas Day?
Bike?
A 3-wheel mini bike. Don't know how my parents found that out. Don't know how I swear to you, I never told anybody. At least as I remember. But yeah, that's where I learned about wish magic at 6 years old. If you wish for it and you visualize it and you see yourself doing it, it will come.
I'm a little jealous of that experience, to be honest with you, because as a kid, as soon as I learned anything like that, like that little rhyme, right? That every kid learns at some point when they're really little. As soon as I learned it, it was met with the, another statement from my parents that's like, that's not real. That doesn't work. That's not in accordance with the Bible. That's anti-God, blah, 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 blah. So I would hear stuff and I would think like, oh, that's cool, but it's not real. And I wish I could have had that experience as a kid where, you can just invest yourself like 100%, so much easier into a belief when you're little. You're not tainted by, whatever you want to call it, the shared dream destroying you in your adulthood. So that's an awesome experience that you just shared, though. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, my pleasure. I was lucky. My father was non-religious, and I looked up to him wildly. And my mother was religious, but she never really preached or did anything. She was quiet about it. The only thing that she did was she took us to church every Sunday, and that was it. But she never really talked about it in the household. So, yeah.
Well, it seems like that was just, you had all of these stepping stones that got laid out in front of you on your path. And then eventually you just had this really awesome connecting moment where everything lit up, I guess, around the time where you found Buckland's book.
Yeah.
But you've been teaching music since you were in junior high, correct?
Yes. So when I was in junior high, I excelled at music. And when I was in junior high, I started to perform. I started to play for weddings. I never played for a funeral. And I've only sang at one funeral. And it was very difficult for me because I'm very empathic and very compassionate and very emotional. So it's hard for me not to cry at a funeral. And so I kind of avoid them, but I mean, performing wise. But I was doing a lot of weddings in junior high, playing the piano, playing the organ. And people started asking, like, who's your teacher? And I got kind of smart about it. And I'm like, well, I can teach you, So here I am, this little gay boy, junior high on the farm, teaching these Christian people how to play piano for I think I was charging like $4 an hour or something, and most of them were taking half-hour lessons. So it was like $2 a lesson, But back then I was raking it in, So I didn't have a ton of students, obviously, because I was still in school and everything. But I had a handful of students, I'd say 4 or 5. And it was fun. It was fun. And then when I graduated from college and I moved to Orlando, to Central Florida, I immediately got a job, realized it wasn't going to be enough, got a second job, realized it still wasn't going to be enough, took on a bunch of roommates, still wasn't going to work out, got a third job. And then I woke up and I said, what the hell am I doing? I have a degree in music. So I quit all my jobs, Radio Shack, working the popcorn stand at the movie theater. I was a waiter at a resort, restaurant resort. And I quit all of them in the same day. Just, it's an Aries thing. I purge. And I printed flyers that I was going to start teaching piano. And my only worry was I lived in an apartment on the 3rd floor, and I was worried that the apartment complex was going to have an issue with me teaching out of my apartment. So I went to the office of the apartment complex and I told them my intent and showed them a flyer. And instead of being upset with me, the opposite happened. They got excited and they actually put my ad for free in the apartment newsletter. So it went out to every apartment in the entire complex, and there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of apartments. It was a big complex. And boom, within a week I was booked. I was completely filled. And that's where I started really digging in and teaching music lessons, was, so I could survive, and back then it was 1991. I moved here in 90. So about 91 is when I quit everything. And into 92 is when I really pushed it. And I was charging $20 an hour and people were paying it, gladly. So that's how I got into teaching music. And I started in junior high. Yeah. You see, my father was self-employed. He was an artificial inseminator of cattle. We owned the farm. He did the dairy cattle thing as well. So we milked cows. We had hay fields, and I would drive the tractor and buck bales of hay and stuff. And I did all that farm stuff growing up. But I watched my father growing up, never, ever working for somebody else. He always did his own thing. And so if dad can do it, I can do it, and so I just did it. I didn't think about it twice. Being my own boss just feels so natural.
Do you feel like you wished upon a star, or did some sort of magical manifestation technique to get all of those customers so early on?
Always. Absolutely. Yeah. It first started with the wish magic. And then when I actually got into the craft and got trained and I started to understand the logic behind the magic and how it works, then I was like, Oh, so then, yeah, if I'm ever starting some sort of new project, you can damn well rest assured that there's some sort of magical oomph behind it now. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now you're offering a lot of those music lesson services online, right?
Yes. In 2004, Hurricane Charlie came through Central Florida and ripped my shingles off my roof, but also removed my insurance company that covered my home from the state of Florida. So I had to find a new homeowner's insurance. And when the new company found out that I had foot traffic in the home teaching lessons, they were like, oh, no, no, we can't cover you. Somebody might stub their toe and sue. They wouldn't cover us. So I very quickly found myself in my car driving all over Central Florida, going to my students' houses to teach, which of course took forever. It was a big wear and tear on the car, but it was just a lot of driving and a lot of wasted time. And one day in late 2009, I knew of people starting to teach online. So I thought, well, if they can do it, I can do it. So I did. January 2010, I said, that's it. I'm no longer teaching in person. I alerted all of my current music students, and every single one of them followed me online except for one. And that's a whole nother story. And yeah, I never looked back. So I started teaching online in January of 2010. So when COVID came in 2020 and everybody was freaking out, how does this online thing work? Oh my God, this isn't blah, 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 blah. I was like, really? I've already been doing it for 10 years and I'm not starving, I'm quite chunky. So, yeah, I fought it for 10 years. That whole attitude of that doesn't work. You can't do that. That doesn't work. You can't do that. That doesn't work. You can't do that. Over and over, I would hear it. And I would just roll my eyes and go, if you want to believe that, you're welcome to, but I'm doing it. And everybody's enjoying it. So there are people that just would refuse to believe that you could do anything like that online. And I was already doing it. So, when 2020 came, I was already there. And my online business was doing great. But at that point, it exploded. And I had a waiting list. People were waiting on a list to get in with me because I had it down. So yeah, I do teach online now. It's $100 an hour, $50 a half an hour, once a week. I teach voice and piano and music theory and songwriting and lyric writing and ear training and composition and blah, 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 blah.
So did I read somewhere that you sometimes incorporate some pagan themes into the music teaching?
So what is happening now is I'm trying to get back to writing and recording more than teaching. So instead of trading my hours for dollars, I'm getting smart and I'm creating online courses that are pre-recorded. And I'm doing two versions. I'm doing the mundane version, and then I'm doing a pagan version as Alexian on my alexianmusic.com website. And so I will be teaching how to read music, piano, how to sing, how to write songs, all of that stuff on alexianmusic.com with a pagan flair. Yeah. Pagan music lessons, basically. Yeah.
So what's an example of like a pagan flair incorporated into
It's a great
music
question.
lesson?
So what makes a song pagan, Eric?
I don't know. It could be lots of different things. I don't know if I have an
That's
answer for
right.
that. Yeah.
That's right. So we figured, Victor, my husband, and I figured this answer out a long time ago because you see, we also own paganmusic.com. And we used to take lots of CDs to gatherings. I mean, thousands of CDs to gatherings and sell them. Of course, then the MP3 came and streaming came and the CD sales went down the tubes, but that's a whole nother story. But pagan music is pagan because of the context, because of what is in it. It's not a style. It's not a genre, because there is pagan folk, of course, but there's pagan rock. There's pagan heavy metal. There's pagan rap now. There's pagan drumming. You get the point? It's not a genre. It's not a style. It's the context of the music. Now, it could be instrumental even. But if the composer composed the music with the purpose of that instrumental song being used for ritual, and it has a ritualistic name associated with it, it's pagan. It's metaphysical, right? So it's all about intent when it's instrumental. When it's not instrumental and it has lyrics, then of course it's about the lyrical content. So how do I teach a pagan music lesson? The songs will be having lyrics that are more pagan oriented, right? Specifically. So for my first course, which I've already started on how to read music, I'm actually, and also the first piano lesson book I've started composing, they're all songs that are related to paganism and metaphysics.
Okay, so like if you go out, you buy, let's say, a secular piano book for kids, right? You open to page 1, it might be Mary Had a Little Lamb. But in your version of the course, it might be like We All Come from the Goddess or something like that as teaching them.
When it comes to using other people's chants, I'm going to be looking into that, but I would have to have permission first,
Sure.
Of course. I wouldn't just use them. But right now, what I'm doing is composing. I'm composing my own songs to go in. But as it gets a little more complex and the piano lessons get a little more harder, I might start using actual established songs that other pagan musicians have done, with the intent that at the bottom of the song, it'll have their link straight back to their website to advertise their music and their offerings. That's my idea. So that's where I'm headed with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's really exciting. I look forward to seeing what becomes of that. You make a really good point, though, as to what is pagan music. I think a lot of people, when they say pagan music, what they're thinking of is like Irish traditional, like Celtic type stuff. But I write pagan rock songs, right? So
that's right.
Yeah, there's a big variety.
There's 3 ways people usually go from our experience. They either think drumming. They think, let me use this finger next, otherwise it's going to get dirty. They think, key of D minor, we all come from the goddess, and mother, all the things that are all in the same key. Or they think Celtic. Yeah. Those are the 3 directions that they usually go. That is changing, though. I will say that the overarching opinion that used to be those 3, that's all changing now. People are starting to embrace the other genres of pagan music and understand now that it doesn't have to be pigeonholed into those 3 quarters. And in fact, what inspired me to write and record my first album, Alexian, the Mother of the Magic, the Music, was Gypsy, her Enchantress album, Gypsy Ravish. And I've told her this to her face. I know her. She's a dear friend. She inspired me because she's the one that opened my mind. Oh, wait, pagan music doesn't have to be the key of D minor, right? Pagan music can be pop. What? And boom, there came my first album, right? Because my whole life I was like, I'm going to be a rock and roll star. I'm going to Berkeley. I'm going to be a rock and roll star. And then I found the craft, and the goddess is like, aren't you cute? Here, write about me. Write about the earth. Write about the elements. Write about love. And she's been screaming at me ever since, so I'm not a rock star, but I am a pagan musician, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Okay, so I just want to point out that you have mentioned several links and releases, and we're probably going to talk about more as we go on through the show. So I am going to be posting links to everything in the video description. So for anybody who's watching, if you hear something cool that Alexian has mentioned, like his community music lessons, anything like that, I'll put links to everything in the video description. So all you have to do is click. Now, one of your communities, I'm curious how it kind of ties into all of this or fits together, is the Cool Cats.
All right. So as a musician, the musician thing to do is to have a Patreon, right? Well, I tried Patreon. I didn't like it. It was too limited. And I don't like limitations. I'm an Aries. I want to do it my way. And so I started researching and tearing apart the web to figure out the best way to do this. And it actually led me to a completely different platform. I use Kajabi now, which I can provide a referral link for you, Eric, for people to click on if they're interested. And I get something and they get something extra for free, full disclosure. But within Kajabi, it just so happened, again, fell in front of my feet, that this is a platform that is for building online courses. You can build your website through it. You can do email marketing through it, which I was already doing with another platform, Infusionsoft, which became Keep. But Kajabi was my answer because I wanted to do these online courses, and it's an all-in-one tool, and it's as easy as using Facebook. Okay. So it's very, very easy to use, at least for me as a geek. And it just so happened that they were just buying out another company that is a community software company and incorporating that as yet another facet into their platform. So I got in right when that was starting to happen. And in fact, I got into the, what is it called when you adopt something early? The people that try it out before it's released.
Beta testers.
The beta tester. Thank you, COVID brain. That I became a beta tester of the community and was able to get in there and finagle it and push it around and make it do things and make suggestions back to the company, which I'm really good at doing. And they actually took some of my suggestions and made it better, along with thousands of other people. It wasn't just me. So yeah, I moved my Patreon to the Kajabi platform and fleshed out what originally was called Coven of Cool Cats. Now that name came from my Facebook group called Alexian Music Group on Facebook. I have a lot of fans on there, and I asked them in a poll, if I was to create a community, what should it be called? And somebody came up with the idea of Coven of Cool. And I thought, oh, that's really cute. I like it, Coven of Cool. But it just wasn't sitting with me. And I'm a boss worshiper. I'm a cat freak. And so I had to add cats at the end. So it became Coven of Cool Cats. Well, I'm actually getting ready to restructure and rebrand that community, and I'm dropping the Coven of, and it's just going to become Cool Cats for short. It's a little easier to remember, and it's shorter to roll off the tongue. But yeah, that's where it all came from. It was my attempt to create a support group that is willing to support my artistic endeavors and everything I'm working on, and be one of the first people that gets to try it out and see behind the scenes everything I'm working on. Because I will stream live, just, like we're talking now. I will stream live while I'm writing music. I will stream live while I'm recording my music. I will stream live within the community. So people get sneak peeks, they get first taste. I also host within the community a bardic bonfire circle every Tuesday night. We go live as a group, and I can hear them and they can hear me, and we all sing and chant and drum together. It's great fun. So that's a lot of fun. I also do challenges. There's a weekly challenge within the community that people will join, and then if they complete the challenge, they get points. The community has points. I also give out awards for the person who's most engaged in the community every month, and they get 500 points for winning what I call the Pentacle Plaque. And all the points add up, and the points are going to be, they equal cash. So the cash I shouldn't say cash, they're coupons that can be used towards my future online courses. So they can get a huge discount on my upcoming music courses and metaphysical courses too, because I'm going to be making some metaphysical courses as well. So that's just a little sneak peek about the community, Cool Cats community, and what I'm doing inside there. A lot of fun stuff.
It sounds like a lot of fun, and it certainly sounds like you have some very big plans for that. And like you are working on a lot of stuff behind the scenes, including some new releases, right? You just came out recently with one.
So, Merry Meet, Odie Corsuma, which is Latin for meet today, roughly. I wanted to write a song about, well, it all started with a dream. I do a lot of music composition in my dreams. I have ideas. Sometimes I get complete songs in my dreams. So this instance, I had a dream where a bunch of people were getting together to do ritual, and they were greeting each other, with Merry Meet, but they were speaking in Latin. I don't speak Latin, so I have no idea where that came from. I didn't even know how to spell it, so I had to look it up on Google. But they were speaking Latin, and they met, and then they started singing a chant and dancing, and I still see this dream in my brain, like clear as a bell. But I woke up. This is the greatest songwriting tool, by the way, ever. Okay. In the middle of the night, I will wake up, I'll hit the record button, I'll go, and the next day, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, that's a great idea. Or the next day, I'm like, what the hell did I just say? I have no idea what I just said, because I'm mumbling into the mic. But this one actually was clear, and it was Odie o Corsuma, and it became Merry Meet. And I knew, because of what I heard and saw in my dream, I couldn't do it alone. So I activated my volunteer group, which is called Spectral. And you can join Spectral if you're interested on my website at alexianmusic.com. But Spectral is a volunteer group where you lend your voice to sing backgrounds on my recordings that I release to the world. You can also volunteer to dance in music videos as well. You record yourself dancing with your own video and send it to me, and I mix it into my music videos, okay? So you can sign up for one or the other or both to lend your voices and your dancing. So I activated Spectral and sent them out this, sheet music. Most people don't even read sheet music, but I do everything professionally. I sent out parts and sheet music and pre-recorded tracks to sing along with. And they slowly, after they got off the initial shock of, you want me to do what now? You want me to sing in Latin? What? There's a little bit of shock that happened. But once they got over that, the recordings started to slowly trickle back in. It took a while, but they got them back into me, and I mixed them together. And it came out better than I could ever have hoped for. It is this angelic choir chanting behind me, Odie o Corsuma, and Felix o Corsuma, which is happy meet, right? En amore et fide, in love and trust, right? In Latin. And then, of course, the course is in English. And there's drumming and doom back. You have to hear it. So Merry Meet, I released about 9 months ago as a download only from my website. And then a couple of months ago, I released it as download everywhere else, but not streaming, right? I just now put the order in to start releasing it as a streaming song too. So if you haven't downloaded your copy, I appreciate your patronage. Download your copy, buy the song from alexianmusic.com, but it will be streaming as well soon.
If it's streaming by the time we put the video out, you can expect to find the link in the video description below, because I'm looking forward to it. Now, I don't even know which direction to go, because you said so many interesting things in that last spiel. Dreams. I write songs in my dreams all the time, and
Excellent.
I can't even retain them to the point of waking up and grabbing my phone. How do you do it?
All right. This is part of the training I teach my Coven members. If you want to remember your dreams, you have to program yourself to remember your dreams. So when you're falling asleep, you get into that groggy state. It's called the hypnagogic state. When you're in the hypnagogic state, you're very susceptible to suggestion, okay? So what you do is you start repeating to yourself, I will remember my dreams. I will remember my dream. I will remember my dream. And you say it until you fall asleep. It's not easy, but you got to just keep saying it over and over and over. So you're programming yourself and your subconscious to retain that information and spit it out the other end. The other thing that also helps, you cannot get up and hit the bathroom before you write down what you dreamed about. You don't have that luxury. You do not have that time, because you will lose it like that, okay? So you have to have your journal by your bedside, and you should have a writing utensil and a backup writing utensil, because sometimes lead breaks and ink pens run out, okay? So have more than one. Have it open. Don't even have it closed. Have it open on a blank page, ready to go if you choose the old school way to write it out. If you choose to go the tech way, which I've graduated to, have your phone next to your bed, have the app for recording opened on your phone with the screen turned off, right? Maybe plugged in to keep the charge, but have it ready to go. And that way, all you have to do is roll over and hit a button and start talking. You don't even have to lift your head off the pillow. You just roll over, turn on your phone, hit the button, and start talking. Because that way you'll get it out quickly before you forget it. But yes, you have to program yourself. Now, of course, there's other magical ways to help you remember your dreams and to dream deeper. And of course, those are dream pillows, right? And hops is one of the best ones to add in, along with other herbs and essential oils. But that's a whole nother subject. So we won't dive deep into that. But you can use herbal influences, aromatherapy. You can use suggestion, which is the most powerful one. You can even make a recording of yourself saying, I will remember my dream. I will remember my dream, and put it on loop. Fall asleep to that. There's so many different ways.
I think you just broke it down in an incredibly simplistic and easily doable method. I used a similar method to that to get into lucid dreaming. And I think, it definitely worked. I think it should have been obvious to me that the same method would have worked for remembering my dreams, but that didn't click. So thank you for explaining that to me. Outside of dreaming, how else do you create? What else is your songwriting process like?
So I have a degree in songwriting from Berklee College of Music. It's one of my majors. So I have a very systematic way of approaching it. The first thing I will tell you is what my professors drilled into us at college, and that was, there are no rules. There are only tools. Okay? There are no rules, only tools. And so when I teach songwriting, I teach it the way I was taught, of course. And that is, there are no rules, there's only tools. And so I teach you the tools of songwriting. And there's so many different ways. So once you start, let's visualize a song, and let's visualize that it's a piece of marble, and you are a sculptor, and you're going to chisel away on that piece of marble and make a masterpiece out of it, right? So in the beginning, you might only have a melody, or in the beginning, you might only have lyrical hook, which would also be the title of the song. There's different ways to approach to kickstart and prime the pump, so to speak. But then you reach in your bag of tools, and you pull out another tool, and you chisel, and you put that tool away, and you pull out another tool, and you chisel, right? So eventually you end up with a well-crafted song, right? So that being said, always the best place to go is inspiration. When your muses are screaming at you, you listen and you just start writing it down, right? You don't analyze, you don't criticize, you just write it down. And this has happened to me many times. I'm the first one to admit that Listen to the Wind was channeled through me. I didn't write it. I did not write that song. It came through me. I was sitting under a tree outside shortly after I moved to Florida in the early 90s. And the wind came up and I heard voices, and I just started writing down what I heard. And that is Listen to the Wind. And that's why it's so long. It's over 7 minutes long because I never edited it, right? So, yeah, that's the best way. Inspiration is always the best way. But then if inspiration is not your friend that day, you have these tools to fall back on and to start getting the process going. And then once you get the basic shape chiseled out, then inspiration usually comes back and helps you finish it, right? I can drone on forever on even how to get started with songwriting. And of course, one of my courses on my website will be songwriting.
Do you generally, when you feel the inspiration, does it come in the form of lyrics? Do you hear the melody first? Do you hear them all combined, or does it change each time?
I'm going to say that most of the time it's an idea, and usually the idea comes in the form of a hook or a lyric title. That's where most of my songs start, personally. However, I have written songs based on melody first alone. I have written songs based on rhythm, like a beat first. I have written songs based on even a harmonic pattern change, right? So here's a little music lesson for those that don't know. Music sometimes seems so mysterious and magical, and it is, okay, magical. But it's only made up of 3 things with a 4th optional thing. And those 3 things are melody, harmony, that's the chords, rhythm, and the 4th optional thing is lyrics. Not all songs have words. That's it. That's a song. Okay? All of the rest that you hear on the radio or on the CD or on the MP3, that's arrangement. You can take a song and you can arrange it as a folk song. You can take that same song and arrange it as a rock song. You can take that same song and arrange it as a disco song. You can take that same disco song and arrange it as a boogie woogie blues song. You see what I'm saying? It's arrangement, okay? But a basic song is just melody, harmony, rhythm, and optionally lyrics. So there's a lesson for you for free.
Thank you for that lesson. That is a valuable lesson, and one that I learned on my own. I don't know. I was first starting out piano lessons, probably elementary school age. I wasn't allowed to listen to rock music or anything that was not choir music or classical music. So I sat down and I was playing Beethoven on the piano, and Fear Elise and other stuff. And I realized that if I kind of like lagged the time between the notes, it made this syncopated rhythm, and it made me kind of want to move and swing when I played it that way. So I played all these variations on classical music, just messing around with the notes. And it's adding like the syncopation, the rock rhythms, which would arrange them more as rock or maybe even jazz pieces. And that's something that I have so much fun doing today, is taking those pagan chants and playing rock versions of them. So you've got all those different arrangement methods, but at your core, you have the rhythm, the melody, and the harmony. So that's a great lesson. Thank you, Alexian.
Do you remember, you're not as old as me, but like, do you remember when they came out with the recordings of the classics, but they were rocked out?
I have encountered several versions of rocked out classical music. Yeah.
It's cool. It's very cool. We were freaking out when that first came out back in the 80s.
So I love rocked out classical music, by the way. Or metal versions of classical songs. Just like go crazy with it. It's so much fun.
It is fun.
I guess in your inspiration and your songwriting process, do you feel like there is ever one deity that speaks to you through music more than others?
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. So I mentioned earlier that I'm a Bast worshiper. So Bast is my matron goddess, and she's a goddess of love and joy and dance and singing and, sex and what have you. She's there, right? So Bast is a huge influence on my life. She speaks to me off and on all the time. In fact, in my bedroom, I have an altar to her. It's the last thing I see before I go to bed, and it's the first thing I see when I get up in the morning is the altar with all of my Bast statues that I have all over it. She's a huge influence in my life. I did write a song to her called Bast on my first album. I'm thinking about redoing that one and bringing it up to date and re-releasing it as Bast 2.0, like I did with Cool to Be a Witch 2.0. But anywho, Bast would be my definite answer as far as deity goes.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. What other musical deities are you a fan of?
Apollo, of course. I don't stray much, I have talked to Apollo before, so I have to bring him up. But I really don't stray off of Bast too much when it comes to music, Yeah. She's just always with me.
That's wonderful that you have such a all-encompassing and caring deity that's patron over so many interesting areas in your life.
Now, besides deity, of course, there's all sorts of inspirational things from nature, from the elements, from people, from the earth herself, Gaia. I've written several songs about, saving the earth. Save Me was on my original album. And here we are all these years later, and things are just as bad, if not, they're worse. I wrote another song that's not released yet. It's called Scream. And Scream is about the destruction of the planet by mankind. Yeah. And that's one of the ones that's in queue to be recorded soon. Yeah, it's pretty intense, as you can imagine.
I can imagine. Yeah. Okay. More cool releases to look forward to from Alexian, which as soon as I get links, if we get links for streaming them, I will obviously post. Aside from everything that we've mentioned here, because I know we need to get to the signature question pretty soon. But before we do that, aside from all the other things we've mentioned, where can people find you online?
Well, if you're talking about socials, everything is under Lord Alexian. So LordAlexian, Lord Alexian. And the funny story behind that is I wanted Alexian, but it was already taken when I first started, doing my socials and stuff way back in the beginning. Alexian was already taken, and I didn't want to be Alexian 1234, So I went with my craft title, which in Alexandrian tradition they call you Lord if you, especially are a third degree. So I went with Lord Alexian, but it wasn't taken. So that's the only reason I used Lord. So don't think I'm stuck up or something, because I'm not. But it is Lord Alexian everywhere. But you can find everything from my website, which is alexianmusic.com. It's all connected back to there.
Excellent. Okay. I will post all of your social handles, your YouTube channel for the Alexian Show, your TikTok, your Facebook, all your socials in the video description below. So if anybody's looking to find Alexian online, all you have to do is click. And now, Alexian, it is time for the signature question. How do you use sound or music in your personal magical practice?
Oh, yes. Well, all the time. This coven, Twisted Oak, my coven, is now over 31 years old, and we are probably one of the most musical covens you'll ever meet. We sing all the time. So we even sing when we're calling the quarters. We'll sing Spirit of the Wind. We use vibration to raise cones of power within the coven. We use vibration to charge crystals, to cleanse tools. We are constantly using our voices. And I am even more than that. I do it all the time by myself outside of coven work. I sing. Sometimes I think people think I might have musical Tourette's because I'll sing things, but I put that vibration out into the world. Ooh, interesting story that just popped into my head. So let me get a sip. Before my father passed, I had went home to visit, and here he is. He's like 83, 84 at this point, and he's still farming. And he told me that he needed some help getting this bull into the trailer to transport the bull to another farm because he was studying out the bull, right? So I'm like thinking, oh my God, Dad, you're like so frail and 83, 84 years old. Yes, of course, I'm going to help you, right? So I go out there, and there's this giant 2-ton bull, and it is not happy because it has been pinned out of the field into the corral, and he's trying to get it to go into the chute, to go into the trailer. And this bull is getting more and more agitated as time goes on. And I'm like on one side, trying to get him to go that way, and my father's in front of him trying to pull him in. And he is not budging, and he gets more and more, he starts snorting, and then all of a sudden his head goes down. And if you know anything about bulls, when they put their the horns down and they start doing this, they're getting ready to charge, right? And I don't know what happened, but my whole body just took over, and I opened my mouth and I started singing. Right? And the voice that came out was actually falsetto, so it was high pitched. I don't know if I can do it now because I'm recovering from COVID, but it was like, ah, like really high. And I just used long, soothing tones. And the whole time I'm thinking, you're okay. You're just going to go have some fun with this really pretty cow in another field. I'm like trying to visualize these images of where he's going and what's going to happen and how he's going to be okay. I kid you not, I just kept singing, and this bull snorted, and then he raised his head up slowly, and he looked me straight in the eye. I'm looking this bull straight in the eye, and I'm singing to this bull, and he just kind of just exhaled, and he let go, and he relaxed. And then my father pulled, and he started walking, but he's still looking at me while I'm singing to him. And I'm like shooing him, and I'm singing to him, and my dad's pulling him. Damned if we didn't get that 2-ton bull into that trailer and he didn't attack. And that is a really good example of how you can use vibration to communicate even with other creatures on this planet, right? Music is amazing. It is more than human, right? Vibration is a universal experience. It affects everything alive and not alive. Of course, the deeper you get into metaphysics, the more you realize that we're all made up of the same thing and everything is sacred, right? So, yeah, that's a true story. I sang to a bull.
That's an awesome story. They say that like visualization and images are one of the universal languages, and then music is also a universal language. So it's like you combine both of those and really conveyed this message to that bull and calmed him down. Also,
true story.
Also, you finally gave a name or diagnosed me musical Tourette's. I think that is the term I've been trying to come up with all my life, because at any given time of day, I've got the McDonald's theme song, the Star Wars intro theme, and like some classical music and pop songs all like swarming around in my head and fighting with each other, and I'll just be going like off one and then I'll start another. So now I know what it's called. Thank you. It's musical Tourette.
I have to mention here Lady Ayana. Hey, Lady Ayana. That's one of my initiates, one of my coven mates. She is the queen of musical Tourette's. She always has a party jam in her head, and every once in a while it sneaks out the side of her mouth and she sings a little cute, and then she just stops and then she just keeps going. And you're like, where did that come from? Hers is truly musical Tourette's. Mine is more purposeful, like I'll be like having a good day and I'll be like, I'm having a good day. Things like that will come out where it's like I'm expressing myself. I'm not a radio. She's a radio. So that's more musical Tourette's. Like she's got a party going on in her head and it just kind of pops out every once in a while. So I told her she had musical Tourette's years ago and she kind of liked it.
Thank you for explaining the caveats of the different manifestations of musical Tourette's. I know we've pretty much hit our time here, so I will go ahead and close this out. But I just want to say I had so much fun, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be here and chat with me.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
All right. Bye.
Blessed be.
Another big M3 thank you to Alexian for taking the time to be with me on the show today. If you haven't already checked out his music or watched The Alexian Show, go ahead and click some of the links in the video description below. If you enjoyed this video, or hey, even if you didn't, please take a moment to like and subscribe here on YouTube. It really helps me out, plus you'll get notified when I release new content. There's lots of other ways we can connect too. You can follow me on Facebook or Instagram at Eric Arcadian, or you can go check out my website, ericarcadian.com. But if you'd really like to help support me making new content, you might consider becoming a supporter on my Patreon page. Supporters get early access to these interviews, exclusive downloads to my music, and other cool stuff. Remember, there's always a way to make music. Until next time.
The magic's on its way. He's all set to play, so let's not delay. Alexian is on my show.